Michigan's rock station. Q106.
Rhyno, as a longtime fan of your exploits in the squared circle, dude, I am so stoked that we're going to get to hang at Capital City Comic-Con coming up this weekend at the Lansing Center. So as a native of Detroit, man, have you grappled in the capital city in the past?
I have a couple times for a couple independents and for WWE.
Love it, man.
Yeah.
So, some of your favorite memories from time grappling in the capital city. What's your favorite thing to do when you hit the capital here?
Oh, geez. Well, first, I like to, get a coffee, get some energy. Yeah, you know what? You caught me off guard with that question.
I don't know if you had any favorite.
A lot of caffeine so I can rip people in half with a gore. That's for sure.
That's what I'm talking about. That's what I'm talking about.
No, it's just anytime I step in the ring, it's great. Or, usually independents or signings, you get a chance to meet and greet the fans and, talk about some of their great experiences as far as watching wrestling. I always love to ask them who's their favorite wrestler. And they feel obligated to say myself, and I tell them, I go, you can see there's a second of uncomfortable, decision making. Do I say it's him, even though it's not? And I don't expect you to say I'm your favorite wrestler. But anyways, because you got greats like Undertaker, Kane, Austin, Hogan, Piper, so you got all these greats, even Roman Reigns and, like Lita and Trish, and it's just, how could you say me? So,
I always tell people when I ask them, "Hey, what station do you listen to?" If they just mention me as one of them, I'm like, as long as I'm on the preset somewhere, I can be in that second row of FMs. I just want to be on one of the presets. That's all I ask.
Right. Yeah, I always like driving to Lansing, and it's always something. It's always been great, and I look forward to being part of it again.
Well, dude, we've got so many. I feel like there's been an explosion of game stores and hobby stores and, geek culture stuff. And for you, man, where does pro wrestling and like sci-fi, fantasy, comic book stuff, where does that intersect for you?
Well, you know what? I grew up watching wrestling in the late 80s. And, I remember seeing it for the first time. And this is right when the rock and wrestling, the WWF at the time, it was WWF, not WWE, just really started taking off, and Hulk Hogan, and I seen it and I'm like, what is this? You heard about wrestling and, oh, don't you kids wrestle around, just like wrestling in the front lawn. And I think it's like part of human nature, just wrestling and grappling. But anyways, and then you're like, oh, pro wrestling, this is pro wrestling. It like blew my mind. I was upset nobody brought this to my attention sooner, that it was on TV. Right? I was hooked. And, as a kid and even as an adult, you daydream about this or that. And, as a kid, I was just like, well, what if I was a wrestler in this? And then when I was a senior in high school, I started paying attention to wrestling again, because a freshman in high school, you're kind of paying attention to girls, right? So, and sports and stuff like that. So then I started turning my focus to, pro wrestling, and I was thinking about what I wanted to do. And I'm like, you know what, I'll give this a shot for 5 years, see where I'm at. And, we'll go from there. So 30 years later, here I am.
I was going to say, it certainly went from there, and it went through so many opponents with the mighty Gore, man. So, yeah. All those years, how does it feel? How does it feel when you're in that moment, you're setting that up, and you're just waiting for that poor, miserable bastard to get up so you can just go right through him? What does it feel like to hear the crowd chanting Gore, Gore, Gore as loud as? How does that feel for you, bro?
The fans are the best. And I've been very fortunate to be part of it for so long. And, we share that same passion for wrestling, whether you're in the ring or whether you're watching. And I love watching matches. I don't get a chance to before, my match or after my match, because you're either getting ready or you're, kind of cleaning up, showering, whatever, getting on the road to the next town. But it just, the fans, it's like, I'm so glad I have a name you can easily chant, and a finisher with a name you can easily chant. But people are just, I'm very blessed when, people still like to see me wrestle, and they're very supportive, so I just, I can't really explain it, maybe because if I'm not out doing independence, I'm still working with TNA and wrestling and producing with them, and I do a lot of independent shows. I don't know if it's just because they see I'm on the grind, and everybody, they can relate to that. So I just don't know, but they just love and enjoy, what I do. But getting back to the nerdy part, I remember watching wrestling as a kid, and Star Trek would come on right afterwards, and I fell in love with that. Yeah, so it's cool because, like you said about the stores popping up in Lansing, and like I love the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. I love that when I was a kid, So I never really got into Star Trek though, or Star Wars.
Interesting. You and so I host a heavy metal show on Q106, and my co-host, this is where she and I very much differ. She's a total Trekkie. I'm more of a Wars guy, because, come on, dude, laser swords and space wizards. That's awesome.
Yeah, that's what I meant. I'd watch Star Trek after. I don't know if I said Star Wars, but I never got into the movie Star Wars. I know I'd get into it if I just sat down and watched it, but I never, I got to watch it, But what's really funny is go up if someone loves Star Wars, go and say, hey, when did you start watching Star Trek and how did you get into it? They get mad.
Yeah, we do.
Hey, I get it, your passion. And they're like, no, it's Star Wars. To say same thing, they're like, no. And then and you go right into going, this is different, that's different, Star Wars is better. And it's so funny. Personally, I get a kick out of their reaction, and I understand it when you're so passionate about it and people mess up, so I'm just, yeah.
I love it. That would be like someone walking up to a pro wrestling fan and going, "Oh, Ric Flair, greatest ECW champion of all time, right?" I'm like, "Oh no! How dare you!" Grievously offended. I think for me with pro, because dude, you and I are actually the same age, man. So like, growing up waking up Saturday morning, watching WWE, watching sci-fi afterwards. I mean, to me, it's always been like mythology. It's larger than life. Heroes and villains doing incredible feats,
Right. And, the thing is with wrestling nowadays, it's like you kind of pulled back the curtain, but I think it, with time, it added more to the business because, people see that you're real life. You go through real life struggles. You go through a lot of pain. Your bodies are abused on doing what you do. And, so I think people respect you more, and I think it's helped the business grow, because it's not kind of like you're trying to, fool them or anything. You're like, this is what it is, and it's okay to be entertained by it.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
So, and there's a lot of guys and girls in there that are very tough individuals, and especially, you got guys coming over from the MMA, or, Olympic wrestlers, or, so there are, they're great athletes, up and down the card, any card. So, and the cool thing about it is they're good entertainers too. You get guys out there that are like Kurt Angle was just a natural, like when he was doing that stuff back with Edge and Christian. And,
oh yeah.
The funny stuff. I mean, he's got a funny personality. And you're just so entertained, and that's him. I'll laugh and joke with him all the time, and it's just his personality, tenfold, when the cameras are on, but he's got a fun personality. So, but anyways.
Yeah, I mean, just one of the most well-rounded performers to ever step foot in the ring. No doubt about that.
Yeah.
In all of your years spending time in the squared circle, was there ever a cat who came in and you're like, I don't know if this cat's going to make it, and they just surprised you with how quickly they developed their skills?
Oh, geez. It's crazy because I was I forget her name. She was just, because with TNA, they're doing a lot of work with NXT. So they're doing a lot of talent exchange. And there was one lady wrestler came in, and we're in Philly at the ECW arena. This was like last week, and she wrestled Jordan Grace. And Jordan Grace is our female champion. And anyways, I forget the lady's name from NXT, but she's only been wrestling for a year. And I talked to Jordan. I go, great match yesterday, because we did like 2 days of TV tapings. And I go, how long was she working? She goes, only a year. And I'm like, wow. I'm like, sometimes people can't wrestle like that, and they've been wrestling for 5 or 6 years. And, but NXT, they've got a lot of great coaches, the facility, and, if you're really going to, if you can't learn down there, maybe it's not the best place for you. But I forget her name. I'm just drawing a blank. But anyway, she's only been wrestling a year, and I was so impressed, so. But there's a lot of people that surprise you. Someone off the John Cena, when I was wrestling with him, and then how he took off, he was doing that whole, when he was rapping a lot and stuff. And he really enjoyed rap music. It wasn't kind of like, hey, we'll just throw this on. That was a passion of his, and I think it still is. But how he's developed, and how everybody took a liking to him, I think he definitely is. I knew he was going to do something great, but how he just kept on succeeding, and, now he's a household name. I remember doing interviews back when I was still wrestling him on the live events. People they would say, oh, you're wrestling John Cena. And I'm like, no, it's Cena. Mm-hmm. Now he's a household name, but that's when he first started. He first started, I think, on TV in 2002. And right when I got back, he was a heel, and I'd work with him on like live events. And then he started to turn babyface. So they rolled with him as a babyface. And then I worked him a lot on TV. So, but yeah, he's, as far as getting over, he definitely, I knew he'd get over, but I didn't know how over he'd get.
Yeah, there's getting over in the wrestling scene, and then getting over world freaking wide.
Yeah, like I love his movies.
Oh yeah.
I told him that. I go, man, I was watching this movie, I laughed, and then have you ever watched Trainwreck?
No, I haven't yet. I'm late to the party on a lot of movies.
Yeah, his character in that was hilarious. I would just laugh and laugh. That whole movie is funny. Definitely don't watch it with your kids if you have kids. But yeah, it's just holy cow! I laugh so.
So in your years that you've done this, you've worked as a producer. In TNA, from what I've gathered, it's a very collaborative environment, very very supportive environment there. When someone comes into a new locker room, what piece of advice do you give them to make that transition?
You know what? It's like starting a new job. You're a little uncomfortable, even, because you don't know your surroundings. And, humans don't like change, I've noticed, which is understandable.
Right.
And even if the change is for the better, it's just, in patterns, humans like patterns. Because I try to study people, study things, shut my mouth, open my eyes, open my ears type deal. Learn. But the best advice I could give younger wrestlers now is, one, when you're young, you're working out, you think you're invincible. It's like, first off, when you're younger, you want to, run into the fire, meaning like an argument or disagreement. Like, okay, they want to push me this way, but I see my direction that way. And usually you're the first to, use bad words towards their decisions, and in the locker room. Then it's like, this guy might have a bad attitude, not people coming in at first. So you sit them down and talk to them and say, okay, well, they're thinking of 10 different things at once. and you're only seeing that one thing that you're involved in. They've got to involve everybody, the whole show, this and that. So you don't know all the other details. I go, and trust me, if a promoter can make money off you, they're going to make money off you. They're not going to sabotage you, because then you're no good to them. They still have to pay you. So I always try to tell them to approach things in more of a calm manner, opposed to just getting, mad, frustrated, and throwing out every cuss word. And then I also tell people, don't forget to take a second to breathe it all in and enjoy what you've accomplished. Because whether you got there in a year or 10 years, accomplish your hard work pays off by when you're sitting at, when you're looking out at the ring at WrestleMania and you see that ring and you see all the people, or the first time you're in an arena and it's sold out and you're looking around and you're like, wow, all these people are here and they're reacting to me. That's great. Just take a moment to enjoy it, because all that hard work that got you there, you have to enjoy it, so. But anyways, that's two of the things. But if they're new coming in, it's like, just say hi to everybody, talk to everybody, and just and just get comfortable as quick as you can. So.
Now, I mentioned earlier, you and I are the same age, and you have certainly put yourself through way more physical punishment than I ever will in my entire life, dude. And yet you are still getting out there and doing it. Dude, what are you doing? What is your secret? If I sleep on my neck funny, I'm messed up for the day, and you're out there goring people. So what's your secret, my dude? How are you still maintaining this level of physicality at the age that you and I are at?
Well, I say my prayers, eat my vitamins.
It all started on Saturday mornings.
Right. You know what? I wish I had the answer, because I'll be honest with you, I feel great. And I go out there and I work too. And I went through a table my last match. I'm not afraid to get hardcore. So, it's just I'm just out there hustling, and I don't know what it is, but I think if my body becomes so callous to it, like if I have a week off, my body will start to hurt, like almost like a fever, like it's turning back to what it's naturally supposed to feel like. The calloused body is going away, and then I feel good for like a day or two. But I'll still be able to function, but you feel off, right? Mm-hmm. And then I feel normal. And then when I get back in the ring, it hurts like hell. And then after a week or two of that, then my body is calloused again. So I try not to take any time off. If I do have a weekend where I'm not wrestling, I'll make sure I run around and run into cement buildings and stuff like that, just to keep my body callous.
Right.
So, no, I'm just kidding on that. But getting back to, like if someone's new coming in, I usually joke with them, or younger guys or girls. I'll go, hey, you a little nervous? Because I've been in it for 30 years. Every time I go out there, I'm still a little nervous. And Stephanie McMahon told me, Chief Jay Strongbow said, if you don't get nervous before you go out, then you've lost your love for it. And I'll never forget that. She told me that years ago when we were working together. We were getting ready to do a pre-tape or something, and we were waiting on the camera guys, and sound guys were there. We're just waiting. And she told me that, and I'll never forget. It stuck with me ever since, I think because I mentioned I was nervous about the promo. But anyways, I always tell them, I go, I ask them, I go, you a little nervous? They go, yeah. I go, well, don't be nervous, but don't mess up. I use the F word. I go, okay, but when you go out there, don't mess up. Okay,
oh, man.
No pressure. and then their expression is like, gee, thanks. But see, they laugh about it. I tell them I'm joking and stuff. I go, you'll do fine. Once you get through the ropes, take a deep breath, and you'll do fine. But when you joke with them, it kind of brings that down a little bit, the nervousness. So some people, especially when they're first in there, and they're trying to get their footing, they get really nervous. But anyways, yeah.
So now you're going to be visiting us in Lansing this weekend for Capital City Comic Con. But at some point, us Lance-tronauts, we do like to hit your hometown of Detroit every now and then. And brother, as a proud Italian man, I got to know, what is Rhyno's recommendation for best Italian joint in Detroit?
Oh, jeez. Well, I'd like to say my nana's cooking, but
what time are we're all just going to show up at her place?
Yeah. Oh, geez. There's a great Mexican restaurant, Amaya's in Monroe. If you guys are traveling through Monroe, that's great. But Italian, I'm just trying to think. You got me on the spot.
Oh, sorry.
What are some of the places you like?
Well, I'm a type 1 diabetic, so that much pasta just wrecks me. But my wife does love a good Italian joint. But I would be more inclined to go to the Mexican one, honestly. Get me a big old salad with some steak on it. Let's go.
Yeah, and they can do that stuff. Just like sometimes I'll just get some rice and steak, or rice and chicken and steak, and so
right. It's always tough with Italian though, and especially like if you got an Italian grandmama, there's nothing like. I remember my father. He grew up in a very Italian neighborhood, and we would go out to eat, and it didn't matter what the restaurant would be. It was never. This isn't real Italian. This is just like he would just shit all over it. Like this is from a can. Who are they fooling? You know?
Yeah. So he really didn't care too much for Olive Garden. That's what I should have said.
Yeah, right. That's no, I can't even with that. That's like if I wanted to microwave Italian food, I can do that at home. Thank you.
Yeah.
Oh man,
those breadsticks, they fill you up. But real quick, I went over to Italy. This was in 2005. Rikishi was booking, and we had like 4 shows in like 2 weeks, maybe 12 days. And anyways, we'd have time in between, but we'd do promotional stuff. It was like a vacation. And the shows were packed. I mean, you're probably 6, 7, 8,000 people, whatever the stadium held. It sold out. But, excuse me, but talk about the food. Oh, my God. We had the best food. Oh, just pasta. I never knew you could make so many things on pizza. Like, they'd have seafood pizza. I'm like, this can't be good. And then I'd taste some. I'm like, man, why isn't anybody ever told me about this stuff? I would have came over to Italy before, because before then I was never to Italy.
Right.
So, but and real quick, so you always owe the who's fronting the money for these shows kind of question, right? So I think where I'm going with that. So the shows are great. We had 2 shows, so they go, oh, we're taking you to this restaurant on the water, and the 3 guys that were kind of like organizing everything, and they were nice, legit, and so we're driving through this junkyard. I swear to God, I mean, you got junk, they're like car junkyard. Mm-hmm. So it's not trash, but and it's a working junkyard too, and it's a dirt road. Like you're going in between these junk piles, where they're crushing cars and then they melt them down and stuff. And I'm like, Rikishi, I started to get nervous. I'm like, we're making money on the shows, and it's like I'm starting to get nervous. Like, are they going to off us and cancel the last 2 shows? The last 2 shows are sold out too, so we know that already. It's like, and I'm like, this is kind of, he goes, no, they're good guys. And I'm like, yeah, I've been hanging out with them for the last week. They seem good guys, but you never know, right?
Yeah, I've seen movies that go a certain way.
Right.
Don't go to the second location, Quiche. Don't do it.
I'm like, I'm good with some Olive Garden back at the hotel if you want to turn around, because we're on this bus,
Right,
so
right.
We're all on the bus. And that's the bus we travel, from town to town and all that stuff. And I swear to God, it opened up and it drove a little bit, maybe about a half a mile, and then we were on the coast. And then what it was an old lighthouse.
Oh, rad.
And that they turned, and it was like early afternoon, so there wasn't a lot of traffic, and that was the only way there. Yeah. So anyways, and it was a restaurant open to the public, and anyways, it was a little windy road to get down, and the bus couldn't get down the last curve, so it just stopped right there, let us out. But I'll tell you, the most beautiful sight, and it was like an old stone lighthouse, and it was just beautiful. The flower, it was like it was picturesque. It was. But getting there, I was a little nervous. I'm like, because we were driving through this junkyard a little ways. I'm like,
right.
And we're going in, and between these piles of cars, and
it's like,
come on, buddy.
They didn't take you on the scenic route. Like, that's wild, man. That's wild. Well, and I mean, you think about just that small part of that journey, but you think about the rest of the journey, the gores, the traveling, the work, the effort in the gym, for all those years, and to have that moment of the most gorgeous views in the world, that serenity, that's kind of cool, man. It's almost poetic in a way.
Yeah, well, we finished off the tour. I'll get to this. So we flew out of, I forget where, and we were going to Venice. And we had to fly out of Venice to catch the overseas flight, but our first flight was delayed. So they put us in a hotel. You got a couple people wanting to go down to the canals and all that stuff. And anyways, so I think it was myself, a couple of the wrestlers. We had like R-Truth was over there, Rikishi, Charlie Haas. We had, it was a good lineup. And me and a couple other guys, there was the hotel, there was a good little restaurant, and then there was a liquor store, right? Where we just got a bunch of booze and just got liquored up, and we were sleeping by like 6 o'clock.
Oh man,
that was the way we ended the tour. Nothing crazy, we just started drinking, and it's just like we had some food, and we're like, wow, we're pretty hammered. All right, time to go to bed. So you nerds that went out and seen the canals and stuff in Venice, who needs that?
Honestly, with today's rain that we've had in Lansing is doing a pretty good impression of Venice today. So you can still get that experience this weekend. Yeah, right. As long as, I don't know how the drainage system's doing these days, and it's still coming down, brother. I don't know. We may be building an ark.
Right.
That's something, dude. Well, Rhyno, dude, I know you got a lot of these things to get to, man. We look forward to hanging with you this weekend at Capital City Comic-Con. Thank you for all the work you put in the ring. You're kicking ass with TNA, man. It's cool. As a fan, it is cool to see TNA doing what it's supposed to do again, man. It had some weird years for a minute, but clearly they got good guys like you at the helm, and it's a much more fun product to watch.
Oh, it's great, and a lot of great talent, especially coming up. And you got the Rascals. It's just, I can go on, and just whether it's the women's division, the guys division, whatever. Just the talent in the ring is, just awesome, and it's awesome to watch, and be part of. So
hell yeah. Well, Rhyno, all the best to you, buddy. We'll see you this weekend.
All right, see you.
Take care, buddy.
Michigan's Rock Station, Q106.